Hey, Stephanie, welcome to Soul Sessions. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. It's an honor, actually.
I am the feelings mutual, Kim.
I'm,
You know that.
yeah, so Stephanie and I have been wanting to do this interview for so long, but life happened and things got in the way. But finally, we're sitting here and
Yes.
we're finally able to hear your story. You're going to share
You know
your
what that
journey.
means? It means that like there are things that have happened from when we originally wanted to do this
Exactly.
to this moment that I had to experience in order to do this with you today versus I don't know how long ago it's been.
I know it was like 2 months ago, even
Yeah.
longer.
Oh
But
gosh.
I wanted you to be on my show because I just think your story and your journey has so much depth and value, and you have so much to teach other people about not only what you went through in your life, but today as a woman, as a Jewish woman, what you can contribute to the life of other people. So I'm just going to stop talking and I want you to tell the listeners and the audience a little bit about yourself, who's Stephanie Pollak, and a little bit about your journey.
Okie dokie. So my name is Stephanie Pollak. Um, I I have I've been the same person in terms of my core. The person who I am today has always been there, but it just needed time to like brew into who I am today and who I'm going to be tomorrow. And what I mean by that is that I am a mom, and from the mic drop, and many know I am a widow. My husband passed away a little over 5 years ago, and it I'm also not a victim. I'm also um, a person who has a message that just wants to give it over. I'm a person who looks for the gratitude and expresses the gratitude and knows that that has been one of my survival tools in order to continue day after day. And that I see the purpose and the gifts that have come my way because of it all. Um, what who
Wow.
Yeah.
I love what you said about not being a victim.
Yeah. Yeah,
Can
it's a
you
big
can you
one.
elaborate on that a little bit?
So, I mean, you read that I gave this speech over at Mati Shloshim, and it's because I heard it a couple of days prior. And by the way, Mati Shloshim was the first time I ever got up and spoke. I was in production, I was things like that, but like I never actually like spoke from my heart. I didn't write, I didn't do any of that yet in my life. It was really after Mati died that I even like tapped into that area of my life.
That's crazy.
Um, I got up and I spoke at Mati Shloshim, and it was based off of information that I heard from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, who spoke during the 9 days. And he was giving the example of Yosef Atzadik and how when his brothers finally realized who he was, they were, what they felt was just a whole lot of depression. They felt all these negative feelings. They were embarrassed. They couldn't believe what they did to their brother. And they thought that they were going to take revenge, that Yosef was going to take revenge. And basically in the Torah, Yosef Hatzadik says, I wasn't sent, I was sold. Hashem sent me here. Like, you didn't, lo macharta moti, you didn't sell me. Like, our life, we're not sold into life. We are sent into our life. And it's really just a choice. It's a mindset. And my entire being is all about choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mindset of deciding how we're going to make our decisions and how we want to view the things that we experience in our life. So that's basically, what it is. So I got up at a shloshim, and it's 30 days fresh after burying Mati. And I made a decision at that moment that I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be a nebuch me. I'm not going to be a poor me. It's not in my essence to do that either. There's a reason why I was sent here. And even in the speech, I continued to say that what were two young schnooks moving from Brooklyn to South Florida, knowing nobody here. And then the things that had evolved, getting involved in the recovery community. And, Mati, who wasn't a big learner, He was a great learner. He was a smart man, you know, but like all of a sudden, a couple of months before he passed away, he decided that he was going to start a learning program with the rabbi down here. And for working men, for the simple man, people who don't know how to learn, never learned a day in their life, like, and decided to do that. Like, we were sent into whatever it is that we were supposed to be in, like, and that's how I decided to make it clear that that is who I am. I am sent into my situations. Each day we are sent. When we walk into a room, and I heard this in a podcast, I can't remember which one, the person said, God bless you.
Sorry.
The person said, I think it was one of Rachel Hall's podcasts. I can't remember who it was with, but her guest was saying that every time he walks into a room, he basically says, like, he meditates, he says a little prayer, let me fulfill the purpose of me walking through these doors. Like, I'm a messenger. That's all I am. I am sent. You're sent from God. I'm sent from God. My son is sent from God. And that's it. We're all messengers for someone else in our lives.
Wow, Stephanie, I'm getting chills because most people don't have this perspective. Most people live on this sort of like,
what can you do,
robotic system. Yeah, like you wake up, you just do what you gotta do, you go back to sleep. I don't feel this deep spiritual sense where like you feel like God is with you at all times. It's I don't feel like it's common even amongst religious people.
Right.
You know, like you have people who are religious, but maybe they're not so spiritual. And
they're two different things.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And so how did you like get to this place after, you know, the pit that you were in? And for those people who haven't heard your mic drop speech, if you could just very, very briefly, I mean, it's a very long story, but your mic drop speech, you spoke about your late husband's addiction. You also spoke about how you were in a codependent relationship.
Right.
So can you just explain like where you were and then how you got to this place?
Okay. Okay. So I guess I'll start backwards. I'll start with the mic drop.
Yeah.
Because I can't really answer the first part without, you know, talking about my experience and everything. Okay. So the mic drop was basically, it was one of the most therapeutic experiences that also provided closure, because there were stories that I shared, and when I did it, when I Bracha Herzl was my coach. These were stories that either just me or Mati ever knew, or like maybe my therapist, and like there was like even like my therapist didn't even know some of the, you know, the stories that I shared, because I didn't find it that I needed to bring it up until I was ready to bring it up. So that's just number one. And if anyone can go through the mic drop process, I highly, highly recommend it. But basically, the theme of that night that Rashla wanted to do was about codependency and addiction and both sides of the coin. And basically, I married my husband. We started dating at 15 years old. There were red flags then, but you know, like, you're really dumb. And, you know, and there were times where like we had broken up, but like still I went back to familiarity every single time. And I loved Mati. I did. And there was the last time that we had broken up, and it was like a serious breakup. And I didn't understand that. All I knew was that I was getting so anxious, you know, and my life was so consumed by what he was doing and where he was going, and if I can get in touch with him, and like constantly looking at my phone. I was like, did he see, did he answer, did he call, like, did he get to his location? Like, that's part of the codependency. Like, you know, like I needed to be on top of him. I needed to mother him all the time. And codependency has a very broad spectrum. So I'm not the master of codependency and educating it. You know, Monica Wurzberger, Empowering Coaching, she like dedicates her entire platform to talk about codependency. So like, I highly recommend the listeners to follow her. But for me, you know, there was a point where, you know, before that when we were dating, where I was just, something just wasn't right. And just like, he wasn't present, and I didn't know that he was using drugs then. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that he shifted in his like selfishness. It was because it was the disease, because honestly, Mati had a heart of gold. And and I remember breaking up with him, really embarrassing. It was Dunkin' Donuts on like Kings Highway. And I remember telling him, I told him, I said, I will always love you. I just can't be with you. Like, you're always going to have a place in my heart, but there's something that's happening here that's making me very sick. And I did not understand like what it was and what it was coming from. I just knew that like my gut was just always heavy, very uncomfortable. Fast forward like a year and a half later, we got back together, and it was because it was familiar to me. And I also loved his family a lot, and they loved me. And
can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Of course.
Before the drug addiction, what was it that was toxic about the relationship?
Well, there was addiction then also. It was just gambling. I just didn't really understand the extent of it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That like started, but I didn't understand it then either, because I mean,
you were young, and
I'm young, and also like my exposure to gambling and to alcohol or whatever is my father, who is very like, he's not an addict. Like,
right.
You know, he goes into a casino, one pocket has, you know, $100, and as soon as that pocket is empty and the other one's full, he'll leave. Like, if once it's in the other, he's like, there's that control. He can take a shot and move on with his life. So I never was exposed to the dangers of the disease, really. So basically, you know, we got back together, we got married shortly after. I got pregnant really quickly. It wasn't planned, you know, planned. God is a definite, you know, what is Charlene? God, you know, we planned, but God plans better, or something like that.
Hashem doesn't want you to stress.
Yeah, I don't want you to stretch. That one also. That one's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And it's true. But man planned, God plans better. That's what she says. That's what she says. You know, and I got pregnant. I did not know I was pregnant. And when we found out that I was pregnant, it was 7 months into marriage, Metsy went on relapse mode. And all of a sudden, there was just more isolation, more loneliness. There was, you know, there was just so many things. It was very sad. It was a very sad time for me.
So many mixed emotions.
It was a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster for both of us. But at the same time, he always wanted to like detox himself. Again, I didn't know what was going on, and dealing with someone detoxing in front of you constantly, and like like waking up every morning so depressed, and I'm like literally his cheerleader, like cheering him on, and I'm like, you got this, you're the smartest, people rely on you, you're so capable, why do you doubt yourself? Like, and I'm exerting so much, and it was so hard to constantly do that. But I was also part of the codependency, and I was, you know, catering to her home, and, you know, doing all these things, and like I would make dinner every night, but like he wouldn't show up. You know, and again, it wasn't him, it was the disease. So there was just a lot of that, and it was very painful, but I didn't know, I was taking it so personally. You know, like, why is he trying to hurt me? Why is he trying to hurt us? Why isn't he investing in the marriage? And for him also, it was, if I buy her a piece of jewelry, if I can mask it in some other way, take her on vacation, then, you know, then she won't bother me. And then I can use in peace, you know, like there's like those types of thoughts. So that was a lot of it.
Let me ask you something. I mean, I sense that many young girls, maybe they get it from their mothers or society around them, that to love someone, I think we also see it in the movies, that in order to show your love to someone, you have to like be there for them and give it your all, you know?
Did you see what Yapa Palti posted yesterday?
No.
She the one line that caught my eye. She's like, I thought I was, she's like, I you know, I had to be the perfect martyr. I mean, Eshes Chayil, you know, in the beginning of the Shana Rishona, like just that line was like hit home for me.
Wow. So, I mean, like how does a young girl who gets married and her entire life, like let's talk about a young Jewish Orthodox girl, okay? That her entire life she's trained to get married and be a good Jewish wife. And, you know, she gets these things in her head that, like, you have to sacrifice and you have to be an Ashes Chayil and all of that.
And that exists. Like, it is necessary to do that in a relationship. There's give and take in a relationship for sure.
So how does one distinguish between, am I loving this person or am I being codependent?
Right.
Like, where does one draw the line? Or like, how much do you have to do for the person and how much of it is borderline?
I don't know if I could answer that. I feel like that's like more of like a medical professional, like, you know, like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I could answer that. I mean,
but how did you
I can
know?
only share for me. How did I know? I didn't know. I kept giving and giving and giving until it was that point where I was 8 months pregnant. By the way, it's a miracle that I'm alive today, because like there were times where he was driving and doing things and the drugs were wearing off and he was dosed. Like it's Hashem's really like unbelievable. But there was the point where I was at 8 months pregnant and Mati realized that he knew himself that it was getting out of hand, and it was painkillers, and it was painkillers because he had had surgery a couple of years prior and got hooked on the painkillers then. That's how it started. And we were broken up during that time also, where he had the surgery and started on the painkillers. So I didn't see him during that time period when he had started his low. It was like without me in his life at the point. But, you know, back to that present moment, he basically, you know, sat me down. He said, Steph, I have a problem. I need to go to a hospital for 10 days to detox. I'll be back after 10 days. And he went to the other room, called like the insurance company to see which rehab he can go to, which detox he can go to. And as he's talking and he's saying words like opiates and things like that, I'm finally like Googling what he's saying. And I'm like, okay, something seems weird here, but it's his problem. Like that. I was like, okay, you go do what you need to do. I'll be here when you get home. And when 10 days were up, they called me from the hospital, from the detox. And they said, your husband's about to leave. We really highly recommend that he goes into a 30-day, rehab treatment center. And in my mind, I'm like, I have Thanksgiving coming up and I'm hosting my entire family. Like, he needs to be here. Like, I'm about to have a baby in 2 months. Like, he needs to be here. Like, and that's where I was so focused on of like what the other people are going to think of. That's where my mind was. I was like, I went to my best friend's wedding and I lied and I said that he was in Europe for business. That was the first time I lied because of addiction. And then automatically it just tumble-salts into something more. It's a domino effect. Once you start lying in the secrets, and you're just as sick as your secrets are. And that's what it was for me. I started that. My family didn't know until David was 1.5 years that Mati went to rehab and to detox, and I was living alone most of the time. I didn't tell them because I was so ashamed. I was so scared. I didn't know how they were going to react. I didn't think they could be supportive. No one knew. No one in my neighborhood knew. We were so isolated. We didn't go to school. We didn't do anything. Like it was just like we slept.
Oh my God. You were broken up when you were pregnant with your son?
When I was pregnant, I was very alone. I was very alone. He was there at times, but I was very alone, and I don't want to paint Mati to be a bad person. It was the disease. That's really the truth. It's the disease that changes the person. Deep down, they are beautiful, unless they're a narcissist. Mati wasn't. Like, he was an extremely loving and giving and smart and caring and compassionate person. And he really taught me so much of what I know today. Like, he encouraged me to use my brain. He encouraged me to like find my voice and use my opinion and express my opinion. I didn't grow up that way. I learned that with my experience with Mati, and then even more so afterwards, but it's because of him. That's why he's number one on my gratitude list always. Like, even through the pain, I could see that and see the blessings in it all. So he went to detox, and that was as far. He wasn't interested in doing more. And fast forward a couple of weeks, he was going to meetings, outpatient. He wasn't really going, but I wasn't on top of him for that. And like, I share this story in my mic drop, where I was 9 months pregnant, and he woke up like one day. He's like, let's go to Key West. And also, it was very common, for us. Like, we went to Alaska that summer. We went to Chicago that summer. We went here. We went there. We traveled to New York all the time. it was always because he needed to escape, thinking that if he changed his location, things would get better and he can detox. He tried detoxing in Alaska, tried detoxing in Vancouver, detoxing in Chicago. And I didn't know any of this. I didn't know why, but like, it was like, let's pick up and go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, this is so not my nature. Like, I'm not a spontaneous person at all. Mm-hmm. He woke up one morning, Thursday morning. He's like, let's go to Key West for Shabbos. Let's drive. Let's see the sunset. I'm like, perfect. I don't see you. Like, I want to spend time with you. Like, you're stuck in the car with me, like, this is great. And he didn't get home until about 9:00 that night. And it was too late to go to Key West at that point. And it was in the beginning of December, and Shabbos is early here and everywhere. So early in New York. It's so crazy. I don't know how you guys do it.
Remind me, please.
Yeah, I'm not. It's Wednesday. Don't worry. We never made it to Key West, but he was like, okay, let's just go to a local hotel on the beach in Hollywood Beach. The part that I didn't share on the mic drop was I didn't know that his drug dealer was in the building next door. That he told me afterwards. But, and I joke about it now just because the insanity, and I talk about it, that carousel of insanity. But we get to the hotel that night. The next morning he tells me he's going to a meeting. He'll be back at like noon. And I started, when he came out of detox, he so badly wanted to stop using and wanted to be a normal person that he's like, okay, Steph, if you notice me dozing off, if you notice me slurring my words, if you notice me scratching a lot because of the opiates, like if you notice any of these things, you'll know I'm using. Like, you'll know. And he told me this because he wanted me to know. I don't know if he wanted me to know so that I can like, I don't really, part of it is because I knew he wanted to stop and he wanted to be called that up, but also like he wanted to test his limits, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, he wasn't doing any of that yet, but I also became very obsessive with constantly looking at our bank account. And
why?
And also like I wasn't in charge of any of the finances. Like I did not know what was flying, but he had told me, when he was using, he tried pinning on me that the reason why money was always going was because I shop all the time. And I was shopping all the time because I was trying to fill a void that I wasn't getting from him. But I mean, the amounts that were being depleted were not anything. There's only so much I can buy at Home Goods and Bed Bath & Beyond. Those were the only two stores I was going to. And I mean, I spent a lot of money on a garbage can, and it was all emotional. And I admitted to it afterwards. I did. It was one of those pretty ones, the fingerprints, and they opens like a butterfly. Like, it's really ridiculous for a garbage can. But I still have it, and it's like a sign of like, I have it, and I kept it just so that I know, like, these are bad purchases. These are not healthy. But I woke up that morning. He said he was going to a meeting, and I don't know what possessed me to look at our bank account, and I see hundreds and hundreds of dollars that were withdrawn from our bank account during the time he claimed he was going to be at a meeting. And
why were you looking at the bank accounts to begin with? Were you suspecting something?
I was suspecting something.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he didn't show up until too late the night before, and we missed the opportunity already. Like I was looking for things. I was so unhealthy that I was looking for things to like point at him. I was getting so angry. I was so hurt, and the pain was only starting. Like it was just starting to brew.
And you were pregnant at this time still?
I was 9 months pregnant.
Gosh.
Very cute looking pregnant.
But
I looked at the bank account and I saw that like hundreds of dollars were withdrawn, and I'm like, of course, I knew he was going to do this. I knew he was going to screw up. There was no chance, whatever. And the whole day I was giving him the silent treatment. I was being so cold, and I was being so snappy, and I was being so mean to him the entire day, waiting for like the perfect opportunity to like, haha, I pointed you out, like, I got you, I cornered you. Shabbos came, like we literally made Shabbos by a hair because like I also was so ignorant, and I was so naive for sure, and also in a lot of denial. But I was so ignorant to like, because I grew up, like he grew up more Orthodox than me, I trusted and believed anything he said also. So when it came to like Hilchos, Kashrus, and Shabbos and things like that, I grew up in a way different home than he did. I had a Jewish education. I went to yeshiva. I went to a great yeshiva, but like I didn't care to sit and listen and learn because I don't want to get tested on it. and I just relied on him to just like, even like Hilchos Nida, like whatever he said, like he is like, oh,
The authority.
yeah, because like he can learn Gemara and he can do this. So like, you're smarter than me, you're better than me. That's how like I interpreted that. So, you know, I let him take the lead in all those things because what do I know? I wasn't raised this way.
And that probably gave you a feeling of safety
for
and
sure.
reassurance.
It was part of also that codependency of like I'm coming from my father's home, which was a controlling home. And, you know, I didn't like, you know, whatever I was told to do, I did. And, you know, so I didn't have to think, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to like try anything because I was already told. And then I was going into another, you know, male home where he was that like that power, and I was okay with that. That again, that was the familiarity.
Yeah.
And I was always looking for that. And basically, that whole day I was being like all really obnoxious and really mean. And like I said in the mic drop, I lit the Shabbos candles. He went down to the bathroom, you know, in the lobby. Didn't like, I don't know why I thought that wasn't normal also. And he didn't show up. Like, you know, it was like 45 minutes past and I'm waiting there and waiting. And again, like this, it's brewing. It's just brewing up inside. And I go downstairs and I'm looking for him and I'm like calling into the bathroom, you know, Mutzi, are you there? Mutzi, are you there? And then I'm looking all around the lobby and then I go outside and I see that he is with a group of strangers at the pool being Chal Shabbos, because that's what can happen with the drugs. And that's what can happen with you're not yourself anymore. And
here was this figure of, you know, halachic authority. He was like, yeah, religion.
He was my halachic authority, but at the same time, it's like, who are you? Where's the person I married? You're not the person you're not the person I knew at 15 years old. Like, this is not like, and especially coming from like a less observant home, I so badly was like thirsty for that love of Yiddishkeit, that appreciation for Shabbos. Like, I had to always seek that elsewhere. And finally, like, you know, you have this image in your mind that you're going to get married and you're going to have your hopes and your dreams. And it started off that way, but all of a sudden it's like, how could I see
dreams come crashing down?
It was so painful. It was so real. It was so painful. And I was broken, and he saw my face and I ran fast as I could at 9 months pregnant. I ran up to the room and he chased me, you know, behind, you know, like wanting to talk to me. And when we got behind closed doors, I just gave it to him and I just lost it. And I called him every mean word you can think. Like on the mic drop, you know, I say you're a loser. Those were the nice words. I don't even think I said those. Those were too nice. I just gave it. And Mutzi was a big man. You know, he was a big sized person, and he just dropped to the floor like a baby. And then all of a sudden he just was like crying, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know how I did it, and I'm still pointing fingers at him because all of a sudden I'm on a pedestal. I'm better than you because you're pathetic, you cannot do anything, you're not capable, like I was saying all of these things, and he's crying there on the floor, and then I see him in pain, and I'm like, whoa, I can't do this, this isn't fair. So now all of a sudden I'm catering, and I'm like, I'm not saying I needed to be mean, but at the same time, whatever I felt didn't matter anymore. And I needed to just like fix the fact that he was hurting. I was constantly fixing. I constantly needed to wear a cape, and I constantly needed to be the hero in someone else's story. And it was this like need to make him better and to make sure he's comforted. And again, I was heartbroken. I was devastated. I was so angry. And I'm there trying to comfort him. And I'm like, you know, he's like, I'm never going to do it again. I'm never going to do it again. I'm sorry, Stephanie. I don't know how it happened. I'm so sorry. And I believe you. I believe you, Mutzi. And then the next day it happened again. And this is where I say on the mic drop, this was when I first went on that carousel of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And I went on that ride for months. And even when I started recovery, even when I started going to Al-Anon.
When did you start recovery?
So fast forward a couple of weeks after that, I gave birth to David. Let me backtrack actually. After that Shabbos, I did not trust that Mutzi was actually going to meetings anymore. And I said, I'm going to babysit you.
Another part of
Yeah, you know, like, I don't trust you. I'm gonna, like, give me your wallet at the end of the day. Let me see your clothing. Let me see where you might be hiding drugs. Like, any new phone numbers added to your phone. I was crazy, and you become so sick. You know,
yeah.
it's a family disease. Everyone gets affected by it, and I was becoming so neurotic, and I was becoming so unhealthy, and my entire thought, feeling was just consumed about him and the disease and the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And basically,
And you doing this, you felt like you were in control
oh,
finally.
for
But
sure, I was so not.
you were so not, but you were
I was
also
so
not
not.
only harming yourself, but I think you were also maybe exacerbating the problem by
Sure.
babysitting him and
For
doing all of
sure.
these things.
For sure. I was so crazy to the point where I actually called a drug dealer, and I said, "Can you please stop giving drugs to my husband? Like, that's not normal. Also, that's very dangerous. I don't recommend you do that.
Yeah.
Report the drug dealer."
Right.
And it's scary. They're like, "I know where you live." I'm like, "Oh God." It was very scary. There were
That's
scary points in all of this.
frightening. Stephanie, so like I see with the problems you had back then, how you were dealing with it. It was a different way. Like you were the fixer, you wanted to be the hero, you wanted to be in control. I got this. And trying to always
You
be
need
this,
me. Yeah, all of that.
yeah, like I'm the savior, all of that. So how did you transform from that to this the healthy ways of coping today? And also, I know in the past you've spoken about your own addictions, not like um, the health issues that affected you from the relationship, but like you yourself, did you have any addictions? Um, the way that you were coping with your problems,
Right.
and
So,
how are you dealing with your problems today?
right.
I know it's a lot, but
No, yeah. Okay. Should I start with my unhealthy coping mechanisms? Should I start with
yeah,
with
and
the
then we'll,
addiction? That
yeah,
okay. So basically, well, I share that my eating disorder started in high school. I mean, it started earlier than that, but that's just it was. I was always a compulsive eater and a compulsive overeater. It was definitely a result of a lot of criticism that I got around me, and I just coped with it with food.
mm-hmm.
And I remember, it started in high school. It started in my senior year in high school when, you're getting ready for seminary and everyone's talking about how, and I was always overweight, always, my entire life, even with my height. I'm grateful for my height as much as, like, my mom's like, "You'll never find someone tall enough."
I didn't even notice you were tall, but okay.
I'm 5'9", and I'm very grateful, because otherwise the proportions of my body would just not be the same. But when seminary talk was starting and everyone's like, "Oh, you gained so much weight in seminary, everyone comes home looking like a beach whale," like whatever, I started getting really scared. And I started, that was when, like, the anorexia started. I started really restricting my calorie intake, and I started exercising a lot. Ironically, I never lost weight. I ended up just toning my body, and I never lost weight doing that, because the weekends came or the night came and I just binged and binged. And I had to do it when nobody was looking, because then I got criticized.
How did you were diagnosed with anorexia?
Not yet.
Wow.
So fast forward, I went to seminary. I had developed so many fears of foods, every carb, and I stayed away from all of it, like, the entire time. And, like, I went walking. My seminary was in Harnof, and I walked that mountain every single night. And it's right next to, I think, Angel's Bakery. So, like, I felt like I was scared to even smell it, honestly, because I thought that if I smelled it, I would gain weight. So it was like I didn't have a slice of pizza that entire year. Like, everyone talks about Big Apple pizza. I don't even know what Big Apple pizza tastes like, because I never had it. Like, I was so afraid of food. And then it just continued to develop, more and more. So I relied on, like, raw vegetables and fruits. When I came back from seminary, my goal was not to gain weight in seminary, and I was so focused on that number. I did not gain any weight in seminary. I actually maintained, and, you know, and I was like, okay, fine. I didn't lose weight. So I failed in a way, you know, that was how sick my brain is. And I basically needed to take it up a notch at that point because I wasn't satisfied, you know, with just the fact that I maintained. And I was restricting like all day long. And I remember it was actually, I don't know why my mom, we never like ate lamb chops at home. I don't know, like, and my mom doesn't cook. And one night my mom decided they got it on sale at some, like, you know, supermarket, you know, in the community. And she made lamb chops, and I couldn't even stand the smell, but I was so anxious that day. I don't even know why. And I must have eaten about 6 lamb chops. And I felt so sick that I went upstairs and I turned on the bathtub and I turned on the faucet and I was constantly flushing the toilet, and I made myself throw up for the first time. And I got out of the bathroom and I went to my parents' scale and I wanted to see if any weight came down. Like that was the first time I ever binged and purged. And then I just became like, I would do it during the week, like, you know, once or twice a week. And then on the weekends I would binge. You know, Saturday nights I would binge, Sunday morning would come, I would purge, and then I would go to the gym and purge. Like my purging was also an exercising.
Oh my God.
So luckily I was, you know, for like the hot 5 seconds I was in college, one class, this is before I got married, one class that I took was a psychology of eating disorders class. Thank God. And it was an amazing professor. And at the end of the semester, as we were learning more and more, I was identifying a lot with, you know, what we were learning and like the names and whatever, and the behaviors. And I went over to her and I explained to her what was going on. I felt very safe around her. And she referred me to LIJ, to the outpatient over there. And that was, and just to backtrack, at that point I started dating Mati again. We weren't engaged yet, but we started dating. And so
in a sense, like you were trying to get better in one area, like, and then
it was just, the whole thing was just crazy. It was just like, you know what was weird though is that I was, you know, we just started dating again. His mother actually noticed a lot of my behaviors, mentioned it to him, and, you know, and then when I told him about, you know, speaking to the professor and going to LIJ, he literally held my hand and took me. And every appointment that I had, he took me to those appointments, which is funny because, like, fast forward and I'm trying to like save him, you know, like, and it was crazy to see that, like, you know, that fuller circle, that like that bigger circle. But I started going to LIJ, and I remember I sat with the therapist and the nutritionist, and they're like, okay, tell us about your family, you know, like your grandparents. I'm like, well, they're all Holocaust survivors. They're like, all right, like, you know, like unhealthy, you know, like the whole mindset that could happen from, you know, results of, you know, being and
intergenerational trauma.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So like I had one set of grandparents who would force feed, like, you know, pizza and ice cream and rugelach and this and that, like, and the occasional garden salad, you know, like down their throats. And then I had the complete opposite where, like, you know, my grandmother had like a piece of moldy bread and like orange marmalade, and like she would have like a crumb of it and she'd be like, okay, I'm good for the day. And then she would be like, Mama, you look like you can skip breakfast. I'm like, but you're supposed to eat breakfast. So like, but you could eat yesterday's dinner still. Like it's so
the scarcity mentality, and then
it was like the complete extremes. And, you know, and it was mimicked in my home growing up also.
For sure.
You know, because it's normal to end up repeating the same, you know, when you don't know better, you know, Maya Angelou says the opposite, like when you know better, you do better. But if you don't know better, you just continue to do the same things, and you think like, you know, what your parents did were right. You know, but really sometimes what your parents did, you need to learn from, you know, and break patterns, which is really what I focus so hard on, you know, doing for myself and for my son.
So I see that, you know, I see you today, you know, on your Instagram and the talks that you're doing across the country, that
I don't even know where Portland, Oregon is, by the way. Apparently it is across the country, but I had to like look it up.
But, you know, you're becoming a renowned speaker where you are speaking about your journey from being dependent on other people, whereas today you can stand on your own 2 feet and
I'm
make
dependent on Hashem, honestly. Like
dependent
that's
on
that's
Hashem.
it. And on
Love that.
and I'm not dependent on the people. And I actually just I just shared this morning on Instagram, that like the people that are meant to be in your life doesn't mean that they're supposed to last forever. They're supposed to be there for you so that you can learn from them. And like I said, there are people that are coming in and out of my life, and every relationship I've been in, never mind just like, a boyfriend or potential marriage or anything like that, or my actual marriage. These are all things that are people that I need in order to continue to that growth of self-actualization. That's it, and I'm not dependent on them, but I'm responsible to see what they can give me, not in a selfish way, but yes, in a selfish way. What can I get out of these talks? These
Right.
There's a lot of talk now on Instagram about if your feed isn't serving you, or if you're getting jealous, or if you're angry, then stop following. I don't have that issue, because I have people that I follow that wear nice things. I appreciate good things. Not crying that I don't have them. But, or someone's, family vacation, I'm happy.
It doesn't affect you.
It doesn't, that's not where I'm at. That's not, but at the same time, my feed is filled with a lot of positive, a lot of growth. I remember Yom Kippur last year, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were like, I think I'm going to get off of Instagram. Like, it's really like, I'm constantly looking at all the sales or all the thing, kids clothing or whatever. I'm like, they're like, what do you look at? I'm like, none of that. And there's nothing wrong with what you do. And if that's what a person likes to do, gesund or hate, like, go ahead and enjoy it. But my phone, my feed doesn't do that for me. That's not what I want. That's not how I want to consume my time.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, you're taking charge of your life.
I have choices. You have choices. And like I said, someone shared on a podcast I listened to yesterday. It's, we're talking about addiction, and also I guess talking about codependency within the addiction, but it's like, I'm not responsible, but I have responsibilities. And I really like that. It was Chaim Cohn. This podcast called Extra Sauce. It's really a funny title.
Wow, you have a lot of resources in the show. I'm like writing them all down.
I listen to a lot of it, and it's it's not like I'm like shoving self-help books down my brain.
Right.
But like, I take what I like, and I process what it is that I'm listening to. And he shared, and on this topic of codependency, and I really appreciated it. It's like, I'm not responsible. I cannot control, I cannot cure, and I cannot change the addict. That you learn that like the first step in Al-Anon, which by the way, we didn't even get there, how I even started in Al-Anon. We have to go full circle on a lot of these things.
Oh my gosh, I know. And we're even limited on time.
Oh my gosh. But those three C's you learn really early on in Al-Anon. You can't control, you can't cure, and you cannot change the addict. So I'm not responsible, but I have responsibilities, which means that I could also enable the addict from continuing their behaviors. I could hide for them. I could cover up for them. I could do so many different things. I could, like I did that night in the hotel room, I can make Mati feel so worthless. But guess what? He already felt that way. What was I doing? What was I contributing to the situation? Nothing. I thought I was better than him at that point.
Right.
So, I really appreciated that quote that Chaim said on that podcast.
I like that.
But it's the same thing in every, we can say that in terms of parenting also. I have my responsibilities as a parent. I'm responsible to raise a mensch. I'm responsible to raise a contributing asset to society. But what he chooses to do, I have to be mechanech my child, but I can't be responsible for everything. Like every mother says, like once he's out of my home, he's your responsibility, like.
Right.
So yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Should we go backwards on how I started in Al-Anon?
So yeah, if you could just briefly talk about Al-Anon, because I do have like one or two more questions that I do want you to talk about.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like I can
There's
go
a
on
lot. There's a lot.
I know. This is
it's funny because with every person with every person that I've done this with, it's like Steph, like we could do this for hours. Like we need to do this again, and I love it because I love connecting, because I get from you, you get from me, and the thing is that there is someone that needs to hear this, and I think this whole platform is unbelievable.
It's amazing. And as you said, like my feed it serves me. Like the
Right.
people I follow on social media, I don't get triggered and upset because I follow people that uplift me and
Right.
make me think.
And also I
But
follow very funny things too, because I
yeah,
appreciate the beauty of laughter. Like
exactly.
it's important. So I follow stupid things also. And I
Yeah,
appreciate those people who post those things,
exactly. Exactly.
Um, and there's always
So
that group of friends you could always send it to, like, they appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Okay.
memes.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Okay. So Al-Anon.
yeah.
Um,
So for those people who maybe don't know that they're in a codependent relationship, but they might be having these thoughts that, oh, maybe my behavior is enabling another type of behavior. Speak about what Al-Anon is and how it can help someone, you know, get out of that.
okay. So Al-Anon is a 12-step program.
Hold on, I'm just getting something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Al-Anon is a 12-step program for loved ones of addicts.
Mm-hmm.
It's out, like, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's AA, there's NA, Narcotics Anonymous,
Okay.
Gam-Anon, for gamblers. So
Mm-hmm.
they have an Anon, Anon program, for the loved ones. So, and there's 12-step programs for loved ones in each one of these categories: for sex addicts, for gamblers, for Narcotics Anonymous, for, AA. So I started going to Al-Anon, and basically what my rock bottom was, it was 6 weeks postpartum. Mati was abstinent, and I explained on the mic drop that abstinence and recovery are not the same things. Abstinence just means that you're high and dry. It's like getting off of stopping to eat Oreos, but leaving it right over there,
Mm.
corner of your eye, and testing yourself and challenging yourself, having those roadblocks. And then recovery is when you're, and I also heard this, I think this is Trent Shelton.
Love it.
He's great. He said that rehab and recover is putting recovery back, back into weakness, like strengthening the weak. It's like you know that there's a problem there, and you work through it, and there's the 12 steps, and it's, and there, there's program and there's community and all of that. So Mati relapsed a couple of days after David's bris, and it was really hard. It was really painful, because now, like, I knew more and I saw more, and like all the behaviors and all the patterns were like even more blinding in my face, and I didn't know how to handle it. And my original coping mechanism was, again, my family didn't know anything. His family did. His parents did. I would just pick myself up and fly to New York, and he wasn't welcome in his parents' home. Like, literally, that's what it was. And it was February. So I was born December 31st. It was, 6 weeks after. And my father-in-law had heard about a Jewish Recovery Center, JRC. It's in Boca. And they were having their first ever annual Shabbaton, Recovery Shabbaton. And, he saw it in one of the local newspapers, and it was in Florida, and he was like trying to convince us to go. And I was like, listen, if Mati's go, like, I'm not the one with the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
He's the issue. If he's interested in going, I'll be there and support him, and I'll be his cheerleader. And he knows that I love him, and he knows that whatever. Mati was like, okay, fine, I'll go. He was high the entire Shabbos. But prior to that, I came back from New York that Thursday night. I knew he was using, even though he told me he had stopped. And I believed him every time, like, he told me over the phone he stopped. He told me, like, to my face. And like, I would believe it, because I wanted to believe it. I was hopeful that things were changing. And the next morning came, and he was using in the other room, and I was trying to feed David, and I say this on the mic drop, and I just was crying, and then David started crying, and I couldn't feed him, I couldn't breastfeed, I couldn't do a lot of things. It was really hard time. And I hit my rock bottom of like, you don't deserve this. You didn't ask for this. Like, this isn't fair to you. I need to do something about this because you deserve something better. Again, that codependency, and like I say in the mic drop, I still didn't choose me. I chose my son. So it started from there, I went on the Shabbaton. I met some amazing people. I met a few other women, a few other wives who I appreciate so much, that they were like, oh, you're so cute how in denial you are. Okay, we're going to break it down to you for you. You know, like this is what's really going on. And they just did not beat around the bush.
Wow.
And I appreciated them so much. You know, like in 12-step recovery, it's just you share your experience, strength, and hope. And you don't tell people what to do. You share your experience and you suggest what works for you or what didn't work for you. And you take what you like and you leave the rest. So that's what you hear in the rooms, you know? And that's basically what it was. And they started saying things and explaining things to me and like, okay, wow, this is making a little bit more sense, like slowly. And then like a week or so later is when I first went into like my first real Al-Anon meeting. And I had some bad experiences. My first Al-Anon, like one of my first Al-Anon meetings, it was, and I tell this to people also, like when they suggest give it a couple of times, like go to 6 different Al-Anon meetings before you decide whether this program is for you or not. There are so many that are full of hope and laughter and community and all these amazing things. And then there are the ones that it's just misery loves company. And there's the people who play the victim role and they're stuck in their pain. And it's hard. It's hard. So I've been to both, you know, ends of the spectrum. And, you know, but also it's like, it's a spiritual program. They talk about God of our understanding. They talk about a higher power. You don't need to be religious. You don't need to, it's not neged the Torah. You know, it's Rabbi Twersky, you know, gives permission. You can go into churches. And some of my closest people in my life are non-Jews that I met through the program that get me more than my next door neighbor, you know? And it's because it's open-minded. It's not about, it's something greater than we can even imagine. At least for me, that's how it's been. It literally saved my life. And I learned so many tools from it, and my spirituality, like I was so spiritually dry. I was on empty. Like I was blaming, why me? Why would God do this to me? Why would God give a child, like bring a child into this world where, you know, like who knows this or that, you know, whatever. So now to fast forward and to go back to the eating disorder. So I was struggling with, you know, the binging and purging and all of that. Then I got married and I got pregnant. And at the end of my pregnancy, I went the complete opposite extreme of like, I just became this bottomless pit and I just coped with food. And I just ate and I ate and I ate and I was never full. And I had gained so much weight. And I can barely find pictures of me, you know, during that. Like,
take any pictures.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't look at myself. I didn't want to look at myself. I always had a lot of shoes, but I had a lot of shoes because that was the only thing that always fit. And like, I tried every crazy extreme diet. You know, I did the ballies behind the ears and, you know, oh my God, it was so crazy. Wow. Yeah. I did, you know, I tried it all. And basically,
it didn't help.
No, didn't help. I even gained more. You know, it didn't give me what I needed. And I was just, and at the end of the day, I was so focused on the food still. Because I was so focused on what I can't eat or when I'm supposed to eat or when I'm supposed to rub the ballies behind my ear. I don't even know what I was thinking. Right. You know, so, we have to experience these things. And it was my birthday. It was a couple of weeks before Meti died. It was my birthday and I just woke up and usually my birthday is just not something I want to talk about or celebrate or acknowledge or anything like that. And I woke up and I felt like I needed to change that. And I Googled Overeaters Anonymous meetings near me. And there was literally one starting 30 minutes from when I Googled, and it was about a 25-minute drive away from me. I jumped up, I got out of bed, and I went, because after carpool, I went back into bed because it's like birthdays are depressing for me. And I didn't even tell Meti. Meti was sober at the time. He was sober at the time, and I didn't even tell him where I was going because I didn't want him to say anything bad about it. I didn't want to and I also wanted this, like, let me first try it out. And if it works for me, maybe he'll come on board, you know, like I didn't want to push him or anything like that. And I went into the meeting and I just blurted out that I'm here because I'm just so unhappy. And I am the only one responsible for my happiness. I'm the only one who could give me and nurture me and do all those things. I can't get that from any other source. Wow. I can't get that from my spouse. I can't get that from my child. I can't get that from anything else or anyone else. No clothing, no shoes, no food, no anything could give that to me. But I'm so reliant And that was also part of my people pleasing. Like I needed to constantly give that so I could get that in order to find my value and my worth. But then I also found it in food. And then I found it even more in food when I wasn't getting it, you know? So, so I started in OA a couple of weeks before Mati died. And the week that he relapsed, the week that he died, I had gone to 1 to 2 Al-Anon and OA meetings that week. Like I just was like this, I don't want to be in my thoughts. I don't want to relapse. I don't know what to do. And I figured my only solution for me was to be in program and to commit to it because it was the safest place for me. And I did that.
Wow.
And
beautiful. And
Mati died that Friday. He relapsed on a Monday. He died on Friday. And I share this, that my greatest bracha was that I actually felt during Shiva and throughout the Shloshim and things like that. I wasn't numbing myself with something else. I wasn't trying to distract myself. There's a lot of food during Shiva. It's insane. It's right. It's really like out of control. Especially when you're saying Shiva in Brooklyn, when there's like endless amounts of bakeries and restaurants and people wanting to just comfort you with food, which is really unhealthy.
And you could have coped with food. You could have coped with food.
I could have relapsed, no problem. And there was a great excuse. My husband just died. I totally could go and eat, the cakes and the whatever.
Yeah, I deserve to do this, right?
And every day I called my sponsor, and it was really awesome that my Al-Anon group actually, they don't usually do this, but they called me in during Shiva so I could be part of the meeting also. And like I excused myself from the room, and I sat in on my Al-Anon meeting, and I connected with, I wrote my food plan. I committed. I wasn't going to, there was catastrophe. There was pain. There was so much that was going on. But at the same time, I don't know how I had the clarity and it's not just clarity, and it's not courage, and it's not strength. I don't know. I had like the
Hashem's divine.
Seriously, like the Hashem was really, divine presence was there a lot, but like to know that this may be happening. This is the present. I'm sitting Shiva. I don't know what my future will be, but at the same time, I still need to be present. I still need to make sure I nurture the things that I need to nurture. But that also meant that there are times, and even today, I'm nurturing all those things. I also know when I need to grieve. I also know when I need to pause. I also know all of those things. And there's finding that balance as opposed to just like going off and falling off the wagon. It's just like knowing that. But I maintained the present still during Shiva, because the reality is that if I didn't, I'm not saying I wouldn't have, I would have grieved differently. I would have had a completely different experience. I would have had the experience that God wanted me to have, but God wanted me to have that experience at that time.
For sure. For sure.
And then it just, manifested, throughout the years, with my OA and, recovery. It's, I've had slip ups, I've had relapses. I'm not a failure. I'm not that, negative self-talk is one of the most toxic things we can do to ourselves. I may have made bad choices, but I'm not a bad person.
It doesn't define you. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Your mistakes and your failures don't define you. We're always failing.
It's like, don't look where you fell, look where you slipped. That's really,
I love that. No, you have the quotes today. I love it.
And it's not even just I've trained, people are like, how are you such a positive attitude? How can you look at the good things? How can you write your gratitude list every night? How do you do that? I have to. I wasn't always like that. I had to, and I told someone this morning, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes discipline, it takes commitment. Because I know that when I don't do it, I'm not in a good place. And if I'm not in a good place, who wants to be around me? I don't want to be around me. I want to escape from me.
That's so true.
So I've worked so hard. Yeah, I've worked so hard and I'm not doing it just to be around other people. I'm not doing it for other people. I do it because it feeds me.
You.
It feeds me.
It feeds your soul.
When I have that attitude of gratitude, it's for me and it's for my relationship with God. And it's to be able to see Hodula, this, hashtag thank you Hashem is the original, the original is Hodula Hashem Kitov Kili Olam Chasto.
Right.
The good and the bad is all out of chesed, and I choose to see it that way. So
beautiful. Wow, Stephanie, I'm like, you just gave me so much to reflect on, because, the word gratitude or attitude of gratitude became such a buzzword that like some people when they see that word or like they hear it, they're just like roll their eyes like, okay, gratitude. Like how many times can we hear about gratitude?
Right. Like they think it's like, ooh, I have an attitude of gratitude, like a cheerleader.
Yeah, but you are showing that gratitude is not something that it's just like, oh, like I'm thankful for, or like just saying like, thank you. Like you are actually showing our listeners that gratitude is inner work. It's labor. It's discipline.
It's not even that. It's having being able to look outwards and seeing what's around you.
Right.
I joke about this with my mother-in-law. Mati's mom, she's my mom. I call her mom. I don't call her like
you at the Kavana conference.
Yeah, she came to be with me,
beautiful.
and I'm so lucky because again, I never had in-laws. They've known me since I'm 15 years old. They are my ma and top. I'm really, really lucky. But I remember there was one point where I knew she was going through a hard time, and she answered a message. I was like, oh, how are you? She's like, Baruch Hashem. I'm like, Baruch Hashem what? Baruch Hashem, thank you, God. Thank you, God, what? Thank you, God, I'm having a terrible day. Thank you, God, I'm having a good day. Thank you, God, I have my eyes. Thank you, God, what? Baruch Hashem is not an answer. Baruch Hashem, what? Be more mindful of what you're saying Baruch Hashem to.
Wow.
And, like,
wow.
It's you're not saying, it's not for me, it's for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, now we joke about it. It's like, now it's like Baruch Hashem, like what? And we can have that, and she knows she can't answer Baruch Hashem anymore, like.
So, okay, next time I'll know. I'll try to be more cognizant of that. Actually, you inspired me because I do say Baruch Hashem. It just slips off my tongue.
Right.
But like, why am I saying Baruch Hashem?
Right.
Thank God. Thank God the weather's so nice today. Thank God I'm comfortable in my clothes right now. I just had a coffee.
It's
It's
not even so hard to do. It's not even so. And I'll tell you one more thing on this gratitude topic. There was a point where I've only learned about gratitude in Al-Anon and the importance. Wow. Yeah, that's where I started learning about how important it is to express gratitude. And today I could then I remember if I was going through a hard time, my gratitude list would look like, I'm grateful that I can see and be present enough that I'm going through a hard time and knowing that I need to pray to God to give me the strength and the courage to overcome, like those little things. But there was a point where Mati and I would do this every single night. This was a work like this. We did it even when we were upset at each other. It's like we were mad at each other. No matter what, we said 3 things good about our day. And we also had a rule. It can't be saying, oh, I'm so grateful for my wife, or I'm so grateful for David, unless we had something specific to say, because those are just cop-out answers.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And I don't need to be on it, and neither did David, and he didn't need to be on mine. It's not like, it needed to be specific. And what it was also an opportunity for us to, very often in a marriage, you get home, it's at the end of the day, and it's like you're either venting about the hard day you had at work or anything like that, but I don't know what's actually going on in your mind and in your heart. So at the end of the day, when we got into bed, tell me 3 things good about your day, and we would do it. I had more insight into what, I had a really good deal at the office. What was it on? Which company was it with? What item was it on? I want to know more about your life. So we were able to see, and I do this with David. We express 3 things good about our day. And it's usually like in the beginning, it used to be like, oh, recess and playing kickball. And I'm like, no, 1 recess talk. The rest of it has to be other things, but it trains him and it's trained him to see it. And every night we say, Hodula Hashem, we talk about it.
Beautiful. So, we only have a few minutes left, but I do want you to talk about David.
He's such a wackadoodle. I love him.
I'm enamored with him.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem for David.
Yeah, he's the reason and he's the reason why I started any of this.
Yeah, for sure. So can you just, okay, I don't know how to phrase this question. So thank God that you have David, but at the same time, can you just tell us some of the challenges of being a single mother and how that affects you with dating in the future and all of that? If you don't mind me asking you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share, what I can come up with. The challenges, actually on his birthday this year, I was in milestones are very hard for me. Because it's more obvious that, Mutzi's not here, or there's, it's just hard,
Yeah.
So on his birthday, I kind of just had a moment, and I kind of broke down a bit, and I said to him, I feel bad that I can't always give you the things that you want. Like, he wants another child. He wants a sibling just as much as I would want another child, and I shared this a little bit ago, I think on one of my grads lists, how he was comforting me. He's like, Hashem just needs to send you the person that you love, and that they love you and they love us. And then you'll get married. Like, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the pep talk. I really needed it. But he's a weirdo like that. That's how he talks to me. I don't know. He's in another world. I don't know what realm he's on. He's
very mature.
And that's really also just because I've always communicated that way with him, and I wish men that I've dated were as expressive and in tune with their emotions as he is, Some woman's going to be very lucky one day, Martyrdom. But, the challenges, I'll tell you the initial challenge and what it's turned into today. And for myself, when he would go to bed at night and it was just me in the four walls, it was extremely uncomfortable. The first year after Mutzi passed away, I had a babysitter almost every single night. I would put David.
How old was he?
David was 2.5.
Oh, okay.
David was 2.5. And I put him to bed every night, and I literally paid for a babysitter every single night because I couldn't be home alone until I was ready to go to bed. It was very scary for me. It was very uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, I had an amazing therapist, and I love her to pieces. She's so amazing. And she actually came to the mic drop, as a support. And it was the most amazing thing because she really just gave me so much. I have so much of her. So I spoke to her. But basically, I didn't have to. You don't have to do anything. I wanted to be comfortable in my own skin. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be comfortable to be at home. And I know I have people that have reached out to me that they've gone divorced or they're getting divorced. And one of their biggest fears is, that nighttime being alone, not having someone in their bed. How do you do it, Steph? How do you do it, Steph? Ironically, I used to watch a lot more TV when Mutzi was alive. It took me 3 days to get through a 30-minute episode of The Office. I just don't have patience for it anymore. On the rare occasions, I'll binge on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but that's once every 2 years. I don't have it in me to sit there and do that. But I used to watch a lot more, and after Mutzi died, I just wasn't interested because it was just static. It was you're not company to me, and I really learned to eventually become comfortable in my own skin. I love going to movies by myself.
Wow. You go to movies by yourself?
People are that's a little weird. I'm I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm comfortable going to a restaurant by myself. I wasn't always like that, but I learned to be comfortable in my own skin. Whether I'm reading something or, but I've become okay with the four walls. It's not a scary place for me anymore. Yes, there are the times in the years where the wave of grief come in, but overall.
Sorry, I'm losing you.
Don't invite me out.
Hello?
I'm not what?
Sorry, I'm losing you.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just I hear you. It's just it kept freezing, the screen.
Yeah. Okay. We're good.
So that was one of the biggest challenges, but at the end of the day, it motivated me to realize what the core problem is. The core problem, was me being so unfamiliar with myself and, being so codependent on another person to, make me feel comfortable and give me that security in, you know, at nighttime. You know, I have some really good comfortable pillows now that give me that security and that comfort, you know.
Wow.
But that was one of the biggest challenges that turned into something greater for me. In terms of dating, I'm a package deal, you know. I dated somebody who was, you know, great for me, but didn't feel like they could connect as of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's not something they were comfortable with. And then there was the complete opposite that I went, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll forget about me and make sure that David is okay. And that's not fair, because that's not a healthy relationship to go into either.
Right.
You know, so, you know, it's, and I really do educate myself. I do read a lot. I've dated people who were divorced, you know, who are divorced or have children. And, you know, there's a great book, The Smart Stepmom. I don't know if you've ever read it. There's a lot of great information in there. And it's really helped me in terms of, you know, getting into a relationship with the possibility that there may be, you know, kids over there. And I read it only because when I dated that guy who was uncomfortable with David, I read The Smart Stepdad first. I wanted to know what he might be experiencing if it would develop into something bigger than that, ironically, you know. So I wanted to know what he could be experiencing, and I wanted to be there as a support for him. A little codependency, but also, you know, but at the end of the day, when you're marrying someone, you are a team. So like but knowing that balance of like when you're a team or when you're the one who's taking charge and you're the leader, or vice versa, or letting someone else do that and control your emotions and things like that. So that. And then when I was open to dating somebody with kids, I read The Smart Stepmom, and it was really helpful. A lot of, you know, like they, you know, they quote a lot of Tehillim, but they also quote a lot of like Matthews. Take what you like and leave the rest, you know?
Yeah. Great. Okay. I'll put that as a resource too. Yeah, wow. Stephanie, we can go on and on.
I know.
Like your life has so much depth and variety, and your stories, like you don't have just one story. You have like 20 stories to share, and each story has so much that everyone can learn from, wherever they are in their lives, whether they're single, married, divorced. Yeah, this interview was just fabulous on all levels. I learned so much from you. Wow, I just want to like get all in the zone and like really work on my Avodat Hashem and put Hashem more into my life, you know, not just with like the Sidur and the mitzvot that I do on like a robotic level, but really to infuse that spirituality that you were talking about in the beginning into my life. And I'm very, very positive that the people who are listening to your interview right now are definitely going to be applying this. So I wanted to thank you again.
Thank you.
Can you tell everybody where people can find you?
Primarily Instagram.
Yeah.
And my, what is it called, a handle? I don't know.
The handle.
A handle. Like the little, like what is my mom's Israeli? She calls it a strudel, the @ sign. I don't even know what she's talking about when she says it. You know, at Stephanie Pollak, Pollak. There is no C. And I mean, I'm on Facebook, but not really. Like, I don't really do much
like everybody else.
Yeah, you know, it's really like most of my stuff, like there's a whole life that I have on Instagram. Yeah. And like my family's not on it. So it's like, oh, Steph, how can you only share memories on Facebook? I'm like, 'cause there's a whole like,
yeah,
my gratitude list, my lunchbox love notes, like all of those things are all on, you know, are all on Instagram. So
yeah.
I find it just easier to maneuver around also.
For sure. Well, thank you again, Stephanie.
Thank you. And also if anyone needs, you know, contact information, you know, they could always reach out to you, and they could always reach out to me, you know, like.
For sure. You know. The Al-Anon and the eating recovery addicts. Yes. All of that.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so glad we did this. Thank you.
Here. Bye.
Bye.